So, what are you doing later? You know why you're here. We're making a zombie cake. We asked you guys what you wanted to see for Halloween, and 45,000 of you voted for a terrifying zombie. So technically this is your fault. My name is Lori and you are watching The Icing Artist. To make my cake, I am going to start off with a skull pan because this is going to give us our basic shape and then we can modify it. With 3D cakes like this, you really want a dense cake so that way it like holds the structure of everything. And to glue those two halves together, I glued it together with chocolate, and chocolate is now being called the magical cake glue because this holds cake together so well. When creating awkward shapes like this, it is going to be my go-to cake glue from now on. Once you have all of the chocolate smeared in there, you're just gonna kind of sandwich the two halves of this skull together. And then with all that excess chocolate that's squeezed out around, we actually want that because that's gonna help make a big seal. I'm just gonna use my spatula and really kind of smooth that joint out, and then you have a perfectly tight seal. While I had my melted chocolate out, I figured this was the perfect time to glue that skull right to my cake board, and I just kind of let that set for 5 minutes. No sticking it in the fridge for an hour waiting for things to chill, we're ready to go. Because I used a skull pan, it does present a few problems. One being that he doesn't have a nose, but no problem. We're gonna create one out of fondant. I just kind of molded it with my hands and smeared that into the cake. Now I want this zombie to look really decapitated, so his whole jaw is going to be kind of missing. But the other side, we need a cheek. It can't be caved in like that. So the same way I did the nose, I'm just going to fill in that cheek with a little bit of fondant. This head is pretty much the shape that I want it to go in. I'm just going to carve a little bit out of the mouth so I can have that kind of gum and teeth line, because I'm going to create those using fondant later. And of course, if you have not subscribed to this channel, hit that subscribe button down below before I stick my zombie on you. Now I'm ready to crumb coat him using some buttercream icing. I start crumb coating using my spatula and then quickly switch to a paintbrush just to get it into all those like creases and crevices of his face, which you can't really get into with a flat spatula. It doesn't really work. To help smooth out some of that buttercream, I just took a napkin, or you can use a paper towel, and I just kind of dabbed that on. It just smooths it out a little bit. Now we are ready to cover our soon-to-be zombie in fondant. I just rolled out my fondant. I used kind of an ivory with a little bit of green into it to give it that really dead skin feel. Rolled that over my rolling pin and rolled that back over my cake. I just used my hands to really kind of smooth the back of the head first, so then I can really focus on the front. Once I was done, I moved really quickly because I really didn't want my fondant to dry out, and just push the fondant into all of its little facial features. All right, our zombie is missing an ear, so I'm going to attempt to create one using fondant. It didn't work out that well. The ear doesn't look as nice as I want it to look, so therefore this zombie is only gonna get one ear, and we're just gonna create a hole on the other side of his face. Now ears I might not be very good at, but I have gotten quite good at making eyeballs. To paint his eye, I started off by just brushing on some red, and I really wanted his eyes to look hazy, you know, like they're almost glazed over with madness. So I used a very, very pale blue and then just kind of painted a circle. Brushed in with some darker blue and then almost gave him like a little gray pupil because we really didn't want anything to look pronounced on this eye. I want it to be very hazy. Added on some little veins with some red food coloring and I am done. I just glazed over those using an edible spray. It just locks all of the colors in. Once those were dry, I just pushed those right into the cake, and this is where it starts to get very terrifying because it looks like he is staring into my soul while I'm trying to make this cake. I added a few thin pieces of fondant around his eyes. I then blended in using this paintbrush. It's very like strong, but you can't really bend it that easy, but it's still soft, so it works really well for blending things. Now it's actually time for the fun part, making this cake look even more terrifying. So I just took my knife and I'm really gonna extend that jaw. Like I said, I wanted one side of the jaw to be really like caved in, or the skin to be kind of ripped out of it. I then did a similar thing and just kind of made a couple gashes here or there. And then I just used the knife and created all these like little cuts, just really like roughing up the fondant, creating all these little cuts here and there. I then added patches of that pink fondant in and around all those different cuts and gashes. Adding definitions to his gums where those kind of teeth lines are gonna be using my veining tool. And while I had my veining tool, I thought I'd add some wrinkles. You know, we wanted this to look like he was kind of like an aged zombie. Now to create all of my colors and shading, I'm going to use my airbrush machine because that is going to be the easiest, fastest, coolest way to do this. I started off by layering it in lots of different colors. I used some like ivory and then a little bit of brown to it and then a little bit of black to that to make it more gray, and just kind of misted that over the cake, except where I knew I wanted to have some shadows where like his cheeks were or anything, I added a little bit darker color. But the part I love the most that makes this cake look so cool is those blue veins. I just used my blue airbrush and on the lowest setting went really close to the cake and lightly misted on these little veins, almost so the skin is see-through through, and it looks so cool. Probably one of my favorite parts of this cake. And around all of those kind of cuts and where like the skin's peeled away, I'm gonna start with red and just kind of spray that into it. Add black so there's a little bit of shadowing. Our zombie is not going to be able to defend himself and get any food if he doesn't have any teeth. So I made little white teeth that we're then going to color, but I really wanted to make them different shapes and stuff so it didn't look like chiclets lining his teeth. Made some crooked, had some fallen out, because you know the teeth have been ripped out of his mouth. We're getting really gross here. But again, we're only gonna do them on one half of his face because the other one, it's all ripped out. Now I could have left the cake like this, but his gums look like plastic and I really want to add some realism to his gums. So I just took my knife and I really roughed up all into his gums. Once I had the flesh all roughed up, I just went at it again with the same kind of airbrush colors, layering those up. And to create that really, really fresh blood look, I just mixed some red food coloring in with my gel paste and just kind of spotted that around to really add a different kind of dimension to the cake. And that's it. That is how you make a gorgeous looking zombie. You guys wanted to see a terrifying, scary cake for Halloween, so I hope I met your guys' expectations with this, and he needs a name. So if you guys have a good name for this zombie, make sure to leave that down in the comment section below. And of course, guys, happy Halloween, and don't forget to come back here again next week so we can make something else into cake. Bye, guys.